wondering, I've been doing performance testing for web applications using LoadRunner. Is it any different? Yes, it is different. Um, it is quite different. So that's the reason why you have this new course, and there's a new protocol altogether in the Vuegen or in the LoadRunner for these web services. So this course covers both the web services, both SOAP web service as well as RESTful web service. So the title would have been performance testing for SOAP and RESTful web services using LoadRunner, but that's fine. Well, the version that is used for this course is 12.50. The later versions is not much different, but there might be a little bit of difference, but not much. So 12.50 is used for this course. So first things first, let's start with the first question. What are these web services? Irrespective of whether it's a SOAP or RESTful, what are these web services? So before answering this question, I'll take a little bit of time to answer this question. But before getting there, I just wanted to mention that, in the performance testing in the LoadRunner field, or maybe you're using Jmeter, most of the performance testers, they don't know in and out of what is web services or what exactly, how these are different from web applications. But still, you could go ahead and create the scripts and capture the response times and see if the performance is good or bad. Well, that's fine. But since, we have created this course and we are taking it as a proper course, first let's try to understand as much as we could as to what is this web services. And we need not have to know how to create them, but just to understand on the high level what they are, and why there is something like web services when we already have web applications, how different they are from web applications. If you understand on the high level, it will be good. So that's where we will start with. So what are web services? So the services that are made available on the web are web services, or that are available on the web are web services. The services that are available on the web are web services. Is it that simple, Kumar? Just the definition? Well, let's try to look into that. Let's try to redefine it and see, what's wrong with this definition. Well, let me take an example. Maybe Amazon.in or Amazon.com or Amazon.com.au, whichever country you are in. Okay, so using that website, you'll be able to do any of these functionalities. So let me call this as business services. Okay, so you as an end user, if you go to Amazon.in or .com or .com.au, so you'll be able to access or do this functionalities or access this business services. Okay, so you can log in to Amazon, okay, to access your account, and you can search for any of the products on Amazon. So you will be able to use this business service called search. Or if you like a product, you can add that particular product to your cart, okay, and then maybe go ahead and buy it, and then you can log out. Are these the only ones? No, there are a whole lot of business services which are available on Amazon, or the Amazon is offering a lot of business services to their end customers. Not only these, like checking the history, tracking your order, canceling the order, and a whole lot. Okay, let's not even get there. Here the course is not to master the Amazon website, but just understand that these are all the services my Amazon is providing to me as an end customer. And don't you think so that the services are available on the web? World web. Well, yes, these services are available to me on the web, and these are the services, obviously. So are these the web services? Yeah. Aren't these the services? Yes. And are they not available on the web? Yes, they are available on the web. So can I call this as web services? Are these the web services? No, the answer is no. Okay, So Amazon.in or Amazon.com are the web services? No, they are not the web services. Okay, then what are web services? That's the question. Okay, so let me redefine this. If the services are made available on web for human consumption, like me or like you or somebody, you are able to consume or you are able to use those services, then they are not web services, but they are web applications. So this Amazon.com or Amazon.in is a web application, not the web service. Okay, it's a web application, not the web service, because the key word over here is whose consumption you are making these services. If it is for the humans just like you and me, who's sitting behind the computers and trying to access these services, then these are web applications, not web services. Then what are the web services in that case? Well, let me change that definition a little bit. You see, if the services are made available on the web, obviously, for code consumption, not for human consumption, for a code consumption, then you call this as web services. Kumar, what is this code consumption? I'm not able to get around that. What is this code consumption? Well, just to explain that, let me use these pictures here. Let's say me, Kumar, okay, sitting on the computer and trying to log into a particular application. I'm trying to log into a particular application, any applications. Let's say it's a web application. So as soon as I enter the username and password and click on the login button, a request would be sent to an app server, okay, or the business, wherever that business logic is sitting. The request would go to that. Typically it's an app server using an MVC framework, and then the request will be processed, and then the response will be sent back, and I'll be able to log in, and the response typically will be in the HTML and CSS. So styling, okay, so CSS where it can be styling, it will be done, all the styling would be done, and all that will be done so that a nice GUI, a graphical user interface will be displayed over here, and I will be able to see that. So this HTML and CSS and all the response will be in that format, because we know that our developer knows that the response you're responding back to a human. You're responding back to a human, and the human should be able to understand that. So that's why you need that styling and all that. Okay, and you need the response in HTML. So since the response is there in the HTML and CSS, you as a human will be able to understand that response on your browser. So imagine, okay, you're sending this request, okay, you're sending this request, and the request is going to this web service. Okay, there is this web service for the same login functionality, but here it's a web application, but here it's a web service, and you have that same login service over here sitting on this web service. So otherwise we can call this as a login web service, and you as a Kumar, okay, trying to send the request to this web service. First of all, using the GUI, you'll not be able to send the request to the web service, because web service is not intended for the human consumption. But let's say you use some tool like a Postman or a SAPGUI, not the browser, because this is not intended for the human consumption. But let's say you have used some tools like a Postman and SAPGUI, get around it, and you have sent the request, and you have sent the request for this web service. Okay, so the response that you get is a data. It's not an HTML or a CSS. There's no styling. There is no HTML content. So you'll not be able to understand. It's just a piece of data. Okay. So typically intended for another code to consume. But you as a human being, Kumar, you'll not be able to understand much with that data, or even though you are smart, able to understand, but that is not intended for you as a human. The response of the web service is not intended for the humans. Okay, so now you got an idea, I believe, because the output is just a data. It could be an XML, or it could be a JSON, or It could be a plain text as well, depending upon what web service it is. But definitely the output that the web service is giving is just a bunch of data. It's a bunch of lines, it's data, and typically it's not for the human consumption. If you're not a software engineer, maybe you'll not be able to understand that data at all. Okay, so you'll not be able to use this web service directly as a human. So who can use this web service? So let's assume this is a web application. Okay, so this is a piece of code. This is a web application. Just for discussion purposes, it is developed in Java. Okay, it's developed in Java. Now this web application can consume this. Not the human called Kumar can consume this web services. No, he cannot do that. But this piece of code, okay, this web application which is developed in Java, maybe .NET or maybe C#, maybe C, I don't care, but let's assume it's Java. So this piece of code can consume this web service, So you see, this web application can send a request to this login web service, and this web service can send the response back in the data, and this data could be understood by this web application which is developed in Java. So even if the web application is developed in .NET, it would still be able to send the request to this web service, and the web service would send the response back, which will be a data, and that could be understood by a .NET application as well, or maybe it could be C. If this web application could be developed in C as well, and still it can send the request to this web service, and the response could be understood by this web application. So this web services is not for the human consumption, but it is for the code consumption. The code as in your web application code. It could be a Java, C, .NET, or any of the programming languages. So that's the beauty of this web service. So it could be understood by any programming language, but it has to be a code or a programming language. It cannot be a human. So you see, these web services like login, search, buy, and logout. If you assume that these are the web services, okay, so these web services cannot be consumed by the human beings directly. The human beings usually can consume these services with the browser, okay, but since this is a web service, it cannot be consumed by the humans, but it can be consumed by the Java code or a .NET C code, or any of those programming languages can consume these web services. Okay. Let's have a quick glance on some of the web services, not Amazon. Okay. We will be able to look at these web services. Okay. But for looking at these web services, I would need a tool like a Postman or a SAPGUI. Okay. Because as I've told you, this is not for the human consumption. So from the browser, I'll not be able to look at these web services. Neither I can trigger these web services, or neither I can send the request, nor I can receive the response. So definitely I will need the tool, but we'll have the look at these services, but not now, but in the next video. So here, just to give a quick recap, we understood that the web services is not for the human consumption. It is for the code consumption, and these are the services which are available on the